Hello everybody, this is Education 312, which is Psychology of Learning, and my name is Christina Lee, and I am your professor for the semester. So, today we're going to go through the important stuff, the syllabus, a little bit about what's on the right space, and any other things that just happen to come to mind. But before we start that, I'd like to give you a little bit of an introduction to me and who I am and what I do here. So, like I said, my name is Christina Lee. I am a third-year PhD student, so, pretty far into that. I am a graduate teaching assistant, and this is actually my first ever college class that I've gotten to teach all by myself. I've done some TAing and filling in and shadowing for this particular class for the past 2 years with my major professor, Dr. Shane Tutwiler. You'll see his name on a lot of things as we go through all of this stuff, because, he made the PowerPoints and I just took them, because why remake the PowerPoints when I can just take his? But yeah, so I'm basically filling in for him this year and taking over a couple of sections of 312. I'm very excited to do my first official professoring with you all, even though it's a little weird because I don't actually see you, but we are gonna make the best of it. So, just a little bit about my background. I am a former high school Spanish teacher. I taught high school Spanish for 15 years, first in my home state of Tennessee, and then for a year I taught at Juanita Sanchez Educational Complex, which is in Providence, and then for the next 10 years after that I taught at Blackstone Academy Charter School in Pawtucket. So, I've been to a bunch of different kinds of schools, rural, urban, suburban, and taught a lot of different kinds of learners, so I'm really excited to share that expertise with you guys. And yes, I am from East Tennessee, so occasionally I will say y'all. It's gonna happen. Just go ahead and get used to it. And, sometimes when I'm very tired, my accent may jump out at you. So, this is my office at home. You'll notice that there's all these crafts and plushies and whatnot, because I pretty much refuse to grow up, which I think is something that a lot of you will probably be able to relate to. Alright, enough about me, let's talk about the class. So, you'll see here I have opened up the syllabus, which you can find on Brightspace. As I said, this is EDC 312, the Psychology of Learning, the online version. So, here's my email address, Christina_Lee@uri.edu. Best way to contact me is that email address right there. Office hours, because we're online, those will be via Zoom, like everything else, and by appointment only. So if you are desperate to speak with me about something, regardless of what it may be, then I will want you to email me to set up a Zoom meeting, and we can work around whatever time you're available. Right, so a little bit about what this course is about and what we're going to do in it. So we're going to learn principles and concepts about teaching and learning, the different ways that people learn, the different theories about how people learn, because even now we're still learning about the brain, so some things are still just theories. This class is meant for not only teacher candidates or people who want to be teachers, it's also a general education class, so that means that there's some stuff in here too for people that don't necessarily plan to be teachers. It's very important that you get this information, partly because if you want to be a teacher, obviously you need to know these things, but if you are not planning on being a teacher and you are just going to be, let's say, a parent, a really cool aunt, uncle, caretaker, as a learner yourself, these are things that will help you in your journey, whether you're guiding someone else in their learning journey or guiding yourself in your own. So, alright, so course materials. I'm going to need you to get Essentials of Educational Psychology, the 6th edition. There is a 5th edition, but some things are different in the 6th one. So, as nice as it would be if I could let you have the 5th, it's going to have to be the 6th. They are not super expensive. You can also get it, downloaded as an ebook or whatever. No worries. So there are some supplemental materials for it that you can find at this website. And then if you would like to review vocabulary from each chapter, then there is a study stack that you can also have access to. Obviously, you need a computer and access to Brightspace to make this work. I figure if you're seeing this video, you already know that because you're already here. Alright, so classroom protocols. So at this point in the game, we are learning online, and there's no attendance as such, but what kind of counts as attendance is me seeing you interacting with things on the Brightspace. So if you're doing the work, if you're turning in the things, if you're doing the forum posts, which we'll get into in a minute, I will know that you are here, right? So there are 14 weeks, and all the weekly assignments are going to be right here on Brightspace for you. Generally speaking, assignments for the week are going to open at like 5 a.m. on a Monday, and then they'll be available to you until Sunday night at 11:30. So Monday to Sunday is the week. And you should turn in all assignments for that week by 11:30 p.m. on Sunday night. Okay, so we're going to talk about some things today. I don't have a late assignment policy because I realize that you're all adults and you all have busy lives, and in fact you're probably doing this class online because your life is so busy you couldn't even actually, come to an in-person class. So never mind about late assignments in terms of you're not going to get penalized for having a late assignment. What I do ask is that if you need to be late with an assignment, let me know ahead of time when you can, and never hesitate to ask for an extension. Some of you may have accommodations. I will definitely give you an extension, but even if you don't, if you ask me for one ahead of time, I'm happy to let you have an extension. So to that end, I'm much more interested in what you're learning in this class than I am in whether or not you turned something in at 11:32 p.m. on a Sunday night. So yeah, let me know if you need a little extra time. Generally happy to give that, as long as we get things in before grades are due. Alright, so here are the things we're kind of going to do in this class. We're going to talk about how people learn. We're going to talk about, how to motivate diverse learners, ways to foster people's development, both personal, social, and moral. And we're going to learn some other things like what kind of diverse learners there are in the world, some instruction and assessment techniques, some classroom management techniques, and the part that I think is most effective and important for everyone, regardless of whether or not you're going to be a teacher, effective communication techniques. So, alrighty, course requirements. So, you have forum discussions on the Big Six, which are some concepts we're going to talk about this year. They are 15% of your grade. So a few times this year, there'll be a forum post, and you are supposed to answer the prompt for the forum post, whatever it is I've given you, and then you also need to comment on at least 2 peer posts. So find someone else in the class, read what they said, respond to that. Have to do 2 of those every time we do a forum post. So that is 15% of your grade. Reading guides. There is a reading guide for every chapter. There are 10 chapters, I believe, total. So each one of those gets graded. That adds up to 20%. Reading guides are basically your way of proving to me, A, that you read the material, and B, that you understand what's in the readings. In addition to the readings, I will also be posting every week a lecture, which will basically be like what you're watching today. Me talking to the camera, and kind of talking you through usually a slideshow about what the concepts are for that week. So watch the lecture, do the reading. Reading guide should be super easy. 20% of your grade. And then quizzes are also 20% of your grade. This says 10 total. I meant to change that. It's 4. There are 4 quizzes. And each one of them has a couple of chapters in it, generally. You'll see more as we get to the schedule. But like 20 or so questions, give or take, over a few different chapters, usually. So quizzes typically will open, like everything else, at the beginning of the week. But once you start it, you only have 60 minutes to finish it. Now, if you need extended time for some reason, I'm happy to let you have that. Please get in touch with me. No big issue. Also keep in mind that you only have 1 try. So if something happens in the middle of the quiz and your computer, I don't know, shuts down or decides to update, or I don't know, the fire alarm goes off and you have to run out of the building and you don't get to finish, you will not be able to go back in. In the event that something crazy like that happens, just email me and I will be able to reopen the quiz for you at a decent time. Now, you have the whole week to do the quiz, so at any point during the week. But once you start it, it's 60 minutes, and then you're done. So please do make sure you have time to really just devote an hour to finishing the quiz. And then there's a lesson plan that we're going to make, which I'll talk about a little bit more as we go on. That is also 20% of your grade. And then there are a couple of online modules. One is on UDL, and one is on multiple intelligences, that are 10% of your grade. And so you'll work through those and get a grade for it. And then the last 15% of your grade is the multiple intelligences reflection. That turned out weird. And the theorist poster, which it's a digital poster, which I will get to in a little bit. So, right, so the big 6 is really just forum discussions. So it'll be different concepts from the book, and you will talk about them on the forum, pretty much. And that are the discussion questions that I answered before, or that I told you about before, sorry. Chapter reading guides, right? Just read chapter, answer questions. Pretty straightforward. Now, the good thing about some of those answers from the reading guide is that they may be useful for your lesson plan. So please don't sleep on the reading guides. They will be very helpful to you later on. Right? So those are getting turned in at the end of the week, just like everything else, Sunday at 11:30. Here's a rough guide to how I will score those. You can read that for yourself later on if you like. I talked a lot about the quizzes, which are 20% of your grade. There are 4 quizzes. Again, they open on Monday, they close on Sunday night, 60 minutes. Please get it done. Your academic lesson plan. Basically, you're going to pretend, whether you want to be a teacher someday or not, that you are a teacher. And you're going to pick a class. Let's say English. And then you're going to decide on a topic within that class. Like, oh gosh, there was this book I really enjoyed in English. I'm going to teach To Kill a Mockingbird. And then you're going to create a 1-day lesson plan for a lesson that you would teach in a unit about To Kill a Mockingbird or something like that. So, nobody cares what subject you pick. You can pick any subject you like. Nobody cares that maybe you're not planning to be a teacher. That's okay. We want you to go through this process of putting together a lesson plan, partly so that you can see the work that goes into putting together a lesson plan. And then remember that teachers are doing this like 180 days a year. So, regardless of what your future plans are, that's important information for you to know. And also, if you are planning on being a teacher candidate, it's good for you to have that practice, creating lesson plans. So, and then we have the online modules. Real straightforward. You go to the website for the module, work your way through the module, and then there may be some questions, a reflection, or a little assignment, which will also be on Brightspace. Okay, so the multiple intelligences reflection and the theorist poster I've kind of put together in a miscellaneous category. 15% of your grade. You're going to read some articles and watch some videos about the theory of multiple intelligences, and then write a 2 to 3 page reflection about your experiences with multiple intelligences. All that will make a lot more sense when we come to that. So there are, some of the questions that you're going to answer are already here for you, and they will also be in the assignment on Brightspace. So, and then there's the theorist poster, which is a digital poster. I'm going to have, each of you will be assigned an educational theorist or philosopher. So some of them we may talk about in class, some of them we may not, but your job will be to go out and find out some information about what those theorists thought and what is the major thing that they brought into education, and just make a little digital poster explaining about that theorist and what their background was and, what's the major thing that we learned from them that we, may or may not continue to use in education. So that is basically the main assignments. One thing I would tell you is when you're submitting stuff on Brightspace, just make it a PDF because Brightspace is picky. It doesn't like Pages if you're on a Mac. It does like Microsoft Word, so if you have a docx file, you can turn that in. But in general, I think it's just best practice to do PDFs all the time because everyone can open them. And if you're going to post a picture, which we may at some point, do that as a JPG or a JPEG, a PNG. Those are pretty much the only formats that Brightspace likes. Here's the grading scale. You can look at that. Pretty self-explanatory. All right, so let's talk schedule. Okay, so for each week, with the exception of week 1 and I think week 14, there are 2 lines here. So there'll be like a white one and a blue one. But both of those lines are the work for that week. So, for example, we're now in week 1. We're talking a little bit about the psychology of learning, what you're going to do in this class, and then here are your assignments for this week. You know, get your textbook, check out stuff on Brightspace, watch this video, make sure that you're ready to go. Also, over here in Brightspace, you'll notice that there is a book chapter section. The first 3 chapters are in this section right here of the textbook. So if for whatever reason you are having trouble getting a quick copy of the textbook, the first 3 chapters are already here for you. So hopefully that helps you out a little bit. And then, okay, so week 2 starts on 9/10. We're going to really get into the Introduction to Educational Psychology. That'll be a lecture. And then you will read chapter 1 and your reading guide 1 will be due. Now, same week, week 2, this is an online class. It's going to be a lot of work for any given week. I'm going to go ahead and tell you. For week 2, we're going to study learning, cognition, and memory. Again, that's a video lecture. Please watch the lecture. And then you're going to read chapter 2 and do reading guide 2. This thing about theory to theory paper, never mind. That's something I didn't delete from my last syllabus. I'll take it out a little bit later. Week 3, which starts on 9/16, we're going to do some universal design for learning. That's a module. Here's the link to that here, and it will also be over here somewhere. There it is on this one. So that is one thing you will do that week. And then also in week 3, we'll talk about learning in context. That's a video lecture from me. And then you're going to read chapter 4 and turn in reading guide number 3. Week 4 starts on 9/23. That's a quiz. Quizzes can be found on Brightspace, of course. So the first quiz is going to do chapters 1, 2, 4, and UDL. So pretty much everything you've talked about up to this point. Also in week 4, we're going to start the discussion on multiple intelligences. So there'll be some stuff for you to read and a few video things also in there for you to learn about multiple intelligences. Those are found on Brightspace. That will also be when the multiple intelligences reflection is due. I will add that to the syllabus also. I just noticed it's not there. All right, so week 5 starts on 9/30. Complex cognitive practice, that's a lecture. Chapter 3, reading guide 4 is due. Also week 5, cognitive development, that's a lecture. Video lecture, chapter 6, reading guide 5 is due. Starting to see a pattern here. All right, so week 6 starts on 10/7. We're going to do personal, social, and moral development. That's a lecture. Chapter 7, reading guide 6 is due. Also on week 6, your Learning Theorist digital poster is going to get turned in to the Brightspace, and we will have talked about that assignment way before you ever get to this time. So, week 7 is going to start on 10/14. We're going to do a content standards module to start with. So you work your way through the module, answer the questions. Also on week 7, we'll be doing our first lesson planning workshop. So about that. The lesson plan, which I will break down for you at a later time, is made up of the big 6, different concepts. So in that first lesson planning workshop, it's going to be concepts 1 and 2 that we focus on, right? So I will create a little video lecture where I talk you through that part of the lesson plan, and I will also have some availability on Zoom during that time. So what I'll probably do is put out a few different times that week that I can be available to you on Zoom. And, it doesn't have to be a one-on-one thing. Anyone can come to any of the times. And at that time, I will be happy to go through that section of the lesson plan with you and answer any questions that you might have. So you can just watch the video lecture. And if you think you're good and you got it, go ahead and work on sections 1 and 2 of your lesson plan. If you require a more personal discussion, or you just really want to hang out with other students and me in a Zoom, by all means, come and join us. But we will be talking more about how to get involved in that Zoom a little bit further down the line. Right, so that's our whole thing there for week 7. Week 8 is going to start on 10/21. That's another quiz week. So chapters 3, 6, 7, and also the multiple intelligences stuff will be on that week. And then also in week 8, we will have an assessment. We will talk about assessment, ways to assess. That's a lecture. And then your chapter 10 reading guide 7 will be due that day. Okay, we're moving right along. Week 9 starts on 10/28. We'll do this interesting activity called the meta rubric. Happy to show you all about that later on. Also, during week 9, I will do a video lecture on instructional strategies. And then chapter 8, which is reading guide 8, will be due that week. So, week 10, getting close, starts on November the 5th. We will have another lesson planning workshop that week. Again, I'll set up some Zoom times that y'all can come to solo or as a group. Or if you want your own individual meeting, you can ask me for a time. And I will go over parts 3 and 4 of your lesson planning assignment. We'll talk about that. I'll have the video lecture, but I'll also have the availability on Zoom. Also note that your forum number 2 posts and the comments on it are due that week. Also on week 10, we will cover the standards. So a lot of lesson planning workshop that week. A lot of hopefully you being either available to meet with me on Zoom or able to watch the video lectures. And obviously, if you watch the video lecture and you have a question, but you don't think you need to be at the Zoom, you can just email me. That's okay too. All right. So week 11, we're going to have one lesson planning workshop on Big 6 number 5, topic number 5. Again, there'll be a video lecture, also the different availabilities on Zoom. And then week 12. Oh, sorry. I forgot to mention. Also on part of week 11, ignore this date, is quiz number 3, which will cover chapters 8 and 10. So week 12, I'm going to do a little video lecture for you on motivation. And then that's chapter 5, which is reading guide 9. Also in week 12, you have quiz number 4, which is just on chapter 5. So, not a huge quiz there. Week 13, so close to the end, we're going to have a lesson planning workshop that week. That's really all we're focused on that week. So, again, it's going to be Big 6 number 6, so the very last topic. And then, like I said, as usual, I'll do the video lecture, but I'll also have different times available on Zoom for you to work with me. And that is also when your final forum post is due. There are 3 total. So, great. And then week 14, last week, nothing from me, except I will have a final lesson planning workshop. So, again, I'll make a little video lecture, but also I think that week in particular, it's probably important for you to maybe check in with me. So I will offer Zoom times. You can request a certain Zoom time, but it would be a good time for you to come to me with any last questions about your lesson plan, and also for you to, show me what you got if you want to, and let me take a look at it and maybe give you some tips. So the lesson plan, which is your final project, is due to me on Brightspace by the end of that week. So, Sunday night. That's it. That's the schedule. That's what it looks like. This could change. Snow could happen. Alien abductions could happen. Lots of things could happen. So do keep in mind that, this could change, but that is really how we hope the schedule is going to go. The rest of the syllabus is important information you may need. Please don't come to school sick. Not that you're going to be in person with me, but it's just good advice. Disability access, if you're in need of some help or some accommodations. The honesty policy, I will talk about briefly. Don't cheat. Don't use other people's work. Don't do that. It's not good. Also, you can read this. Please read this. But I will also tell you while I'm at it that I do not have an issue with you using whatever online resources you may want to use for various things, provided you don't plagiarize. And one way you can keep from doing that is by citing whatever website it is you got your information from. So if you used a website to look up activities for your lesson plan, just make sure you keep the link. Give me a citation. Same thing if you decide to use ChatGPT for some reason. I want to know that you use ChatGPT. Do not use it for reflections, obviously. Do not use it for the purposes of writing. If you're using it to get information, I don't mind. If you're using it to think about how to set up something, I don't mind. But do not have ChatGPT do your writing for you. Okay? But if you consult ChatGPT for information or help thinking through something, if it gives you an idea, if it gives you an activity, do cite ChatGPT. So APA format. If you're not sure how to do that, I can talk with you about that a little bit later. But, do your own work, please. I appreciate you. Some other stuff, mental health and wellness, land acknowledgement. If you're in need of food for some reason, please look at the pantry information. If you need help or tutoring, we have options for that. These things are in pretty much everybody's syllabus. So, that's the syllabus. It's definitely... It's going to be a bit of work, for sure. But the good thing about that is you can kind of do it on your own time, because this is online. So just a little bit of what's going on in the Brightspace here. We have the book chapters, we have the different lectures here. Some of them are already posted, you'll notice. What's posted right now is just the slideshows. The videos will be coming later. You'll probably get the videos as I make them every week. So I intend to have those posted probably on Fridays. I'm feeling like those will get posted on Friday for the next week. So, for example, next week is, lecture 1 about the psychology of learning. So I will post the video lecture for that this coming Friday. So, in a couple of days. All right, so all the lecture stuff is here. A little something about your academic lesson plan. You go up here to the assignments. You will note that all the reading guides are here, if you would like to take a look at those. And the due dates. We're not going to spend time going over individual assignments today, but in the coming days, I will, along with my video lectures for the chapters, I will also post little walkthroughs of the different assignments. So if you want to see what a reading guide looks like, since there'll be a lot of those. Oh look, it's your names. Mine looks a little different than yours because, I am the teacher. Alright, so that actually will probably mess up my sharing if I try to show you that. But there are these little documents here that have all the questions for the reading guides. Okay, discussions is where your forum posts will pop up. So for example, here's forum number 1. Has to do with your lesson planning. Who do you want to pretend you're going to teach for your lesson plan? Is it going to be middle schoolers, elementary school?